Yeah, Monday. Welcome into Writer's Block. I'm Erik Kuselias in for Bill. What a show today. Final Four is set. We'll talk to one of our insiders, college hoop. Who's the best coach left? Who's the best player left? He says they're on the same team. Plus, Odell Beckham Jr., now a member of the Cleveland Browns. He's speaking. What did he say? Was it controversial? And why, if you're a Cleveland Brown fan, this might not be such a good thing. And then, of course, we have all your numbers for an opening day in Major League Baseball, including one player who is going nuts. Can't wait. Let's do it.
Made to play the century by finding Mamadi and Mamadi being ready to shoot.
If you learn to use it right, the adversity, it will buy you a ticket to a place you couldn't have gone any other way.
We are family, first of all. We stick together every single time, even during the tough times.
Harper, the blow by, sticks it, and it's over. Anything can happen in March.
Came out and battled the whole entire 40 minutes for him, and I know he's happy. I know he's proud of us.
Not my biggest team, not my strongest team. They're mentally as tough as any team I've had, and I've had some tough teams.
And Michigan State is headed to Minneapolis.
Final Four all set. How's your bracket look? Well, as for mine, there's an old saying. What a difference a year makes. Well, this weekend, I discovered that just a few hours can make all the difference in the world. I woke up Saturday morning. I was feeling good. My Final Four was intact. In fact, my picks, Gonzaga, Virginia, Kentucky, Duke, they were all favored to make it to Minneapolis. I was looking in the mirror. I felt handsome, felt alive. I was going to be perfect. And then not so much. Texas Tech not only ended my dreams of a perfect Final Four, but they took up my champion Gonzaga, bursting my bracket before my very eyes. Good feelings gone. Not so handsome. No more energy. Like the miracle of childbirth, I forgot how painful March can be. From prince to pauper in the same day. But either way, you can't deny it. We had an exciting Elite Eight, and now it's Final Four week. Now, it's also the first day of April, and I always try to lean up for the summer. So traditionally, I find that today's a good day for me to start on the diet. So I was in line today at my local deli getting my pre-summer kale with a side of kale. And the guy in line says to me how this year's Final Four, quote, kind of sucks, end quote. He said it wasn't sexy. All right, I get the fact. There's no Zion Williamson. There's no Sister Jean in Loyola from last year. There's no undefeated Kentucky from a few years back. And teams like Texas Tech and Virginia would probably rather play with a bowling ball than a basketball. But I got to disagree with this guy. There are storylines. There is greatness. And in the case of Virginia, there is Hollywood-worthy redemption on the line. See, last year the Cavs were disgraced. They became infamous. The first and only one seed to lose to a 16. Yikes. Their great regular season turned them into a tournament joke. Well, this year, they somehow put that behind them, clawed their way back to the one line. And sure enough, they face a 16 seed. And they're getting drilled again down 14. And then something happened. They didn't choke. They battled through. And UVA has kept battling all the way to the Elite Eight when it looked like their dream would die against Purdue. Down 5. Seconds left. 5 seconds, that's all there is. And they're down 2, but they only have 1 foul shot. The Cavs need a miracle. And in a sequence that was just as big and improbable as Christian Laettner taking down Kentucky, Virginia did something amazing. They missed the free throw, tap it way back, somehow find somebody who throws it up, the floater drops at the buzzer, they go to overtime and win. Now, this shot only becomes iconic if Virginia closes the deal and wins the national championship. We all know that Duke rode Laettner's momentum all the way to a title. And oh, by the way, if you like Virginia and you like positive energy, here's a little something for you. The Laettner shot, Duke won that title in Minneapolis. That's the last time the Final Four was in that city. Where is it this year? Minneapolis. So with a chance to go from national punchline to national champion in 1 year, Virginia is a very compelling story. Now, the Hoos are going to face Auburn in that first semifinal. Auburn in the Final Four for the first time in school history. And War Eagle didn't win a church raffle to get there. Think about this. You know who they had to beat in the regional? How about Kansas, Carolina, and Kentucky? All three in the same single regional. Add in the fact that they won the SEC tournament taking down Tennessee. The Tigers are no fluke. Now, of course, they're banged up. They're not going to have the inside presence of Chuma Okeke, but perhaps it was ironic that the interior defense, that's what gave them their biggest moment and their Elite Eight win over Kentucky. And their coach, Bruce Pearl, knows this injury has been a rally point for this team of destiny.
Wanted to just recognize Chuma because these guys definitely did want to try to get this for him because the injury is so fresh. But then you immediately think about all the kids back home, all the athletes back home right now that are just fired up, and the coaches and our classmates. What an uplifting thing.
So it's Auburn and Virginia in the opener. A nightcap is Texas Tech and Sparty. As for Michigan State, keep in mind that Tom Izzo's been to 7 Final Fours, but he's only closed the deal 1 time, and that was almost 20 years ago. Izzo wants another sip of champagne. Good thing he has the one. You know, I'm always fascinated how we treat people differently if they have just 1 title. It's a totally different legacy. You know, the Braves, they're treated much more differently and kindly than the Buffalo Bills. Think about the public image of, say, Jim Boeheim. Pre-Carmelo Anthony as opposed to post-championship. You know, he was this whiny, sour-puss professor. He couldn't get it done in a big spot. And then he wins a couple of games and 1 national championship on 1 Monday night. And now he's the sage old all-time great Hall of Famer. You know, Izzo, he'll have Sparty ready for the Red Raiders, and he wants title number 2. And if you're Texas Tech, enjoy this because you may end up losing your coach. Look, I hope Red Raider fans don't get mad at me. I'm not the one who's looking to poach your coach. But while I didn't write this memo, I've read this memo. And this memo says that a school in Lubbock, Texas that has no national recruiting base, very limited tradition, and cares more about football probably won't be able to make the hottest coach in the country a lifer, even if Beard is a Texan. Look, I love my kids. I recognize that they're not always going to live in the childhood bedroom down the hall from me. Sort of part of me wishes they would, but I know that life moves on. It's the natural progression of things, and the natural progression of things says that if, say, UCLA offers Brentwood and $4 or $5 million a year, it's going to be tough for Texas Tech to keep Beard. Not impossible, but tough. And if he goes, here's a life philosophy. Remember this. Don't ever get mad at somebody for doing exactly what you would do in the same situation, right? If an employee leaves for more money, more prestige, better weather, and a historic opportunity, don't get mad. Hug them, say thanks, and enjoy the ride as long as it lasts. And for 2 of these 4 teams, the ride will last past Saturday into Monday night, and one of those teams will win a national championship. Should be fun. It should be anything but boring. Now, if you had to pick 1 coach and 1 player amongst these 4 teams, who would you pick? Well, my guess says whether the coach and the player, no matter the guys, the best one you want, they're on the same team. I'll tell you who that is next. This is Writer's Block. Back in on Writer's Block, I'm Erik Kuselias in for Bill. So Minneapolis is the center of the sports universe this weekend. And I know Gary Parrish will be there, CBS Sports, national college basketball columnist. Get everybody ready for what's going to transpire on Saturday and then on Monday night. So 4 interesting teams coming at this thing from 4 different angles. If I don't have a dog in this fight, my bracket's busted, who should I be rooting for?
I think Texas Tech is probably the most interesting story, if only because it's the most improbable story. And it doesn't mean that that team is a shock to be in the Final Four. That team established itself as one of the best teams in the country very early on and was always very high in the computer rankings. But the idea that Texas Tech has a realistic shot to win a national championship is just not something that jives with history at all. It is historically one of the toughest, if not the toughest job in the Big 12 and one of the toughest jobs in all of college basketball at the Power 5 level. And so for Chris Beard to be able to turn it into what he's turned it into, take that school to its first Elite Eight last season, second Elite Eight this season, and now just 2 wins away from a national championship is really incredible. You can't overstate the job he's doing there.
He's doing a great job. And you're noticing, I'm noticing, I got to assume that some schools, UCLA types, not necessarily those folks particularly, but those kind of schools, they're noticing as well. So somebody's going to come knock on this guy's door. Do you think he's coaching Texas Tech for the last time this weekend?
Not necessarily. Under different circumstances, you might assume so, right? Because there's some better jobs out there, and why wouldn't you offer it to Chris Beard at this point? But, keep in mind, he is from Texas, and, he's somebody who has already shown you can consistently win at a high level at Texas Tech. He's made this hard job look not so difficult. And so I don't know that he'll retire there. And this really might be the last couple of games, if he does coach 2 more games at Texas Tech, that he ever has at Texas Tech. But I'm not certain he is looking or anxious to use this run to bounce to a different, bigger brand. He might just stay put if something too good to pass up doesn't present itself.
Yeah, that's it for me. I mean, I'm not worried that he wants to go if I'm a Texas Tech fan, because that's a nice family. It's a good university. I'm worried somebody comes along and makes him an offer he can't refuse, and wondering if we'll see that happen, but we have some time there. Another school that you could have picked in terms of who should we be, Virginia. Redemption. What happened to them last year? Now they're back. Tony Bennett seems like a really nice guy. Have they, by getting to the Final Four, eliminated last year's suffering, or do they have to close the deal to really exercise these ghosts?
I think getting there is good enough to at least end the questions about, can Tony Bennett get to a Final Four? Can that style of play win in March? He's here now, and so he'll never have to answer that question again. But when you get to the Final Four and you are the only #1 seed and you are the favorite to cut nets on that Monday night, then you might as well go do it, right? How many opportunities does any coach ever have where you can honestly say that if the best team wins this event, it'll be my team? Tony Bennett is in that position right now, and so I don't think he has to win a national championship, but if he doesn't, it will be an obvious missed opportunity.
Plays a team with the same color scheme, and Bruce Pearl and Auburn, that orange, that dark blue. I've heard some things, both good and bad, about Bruce Pearl when I've talked to coaches and folks in this sport off the record. What's his reputation amongst sort of his fellow coaches?
He's a divisive, controversial figure, but one thing everybody can agree on is that he's an unbelievable basketball coach, an unbelievable salesman, and obviously capable of being the face of a college basketball program. He first burst onto the national scene, I guess, at Milwaukee, but really at Tennessee, where he got the Vols ranked #1 in the country and took UT to its first Elite Eight in school history. I think everybody knows that ended with his termination because of an NCAA scandal. Simply put, he lied to NCAA investigators when asked about a cookout at his home, and that ended up costing him his job. He went into TV for a little while, served his show calls, but ultimately landed at Auburn, and now he's got that school in the Final Four for the first time in school history. And so, yeah, his personality does rub some people the wrong way, and his past NCAA issues are something that, it's a part of his resume. I think even Bruce would acknowledge that. But in terms of being a basketball coach at this level, he's very, very good, and this is just the latest bit of evidence.
Last team is Michigan State. And, for all the greatness of Tom Izzo and all the success and all the wins and the consistency and the tournament, how well he's done in regionals, when he's gotten to the Final Four, he's only closed the deal once. Most times he's underachieved and sort of gone home. How fair is it to sort of recognize that, and what would you attribute that to?
I think it's mostly attributed to, by the time he gets to the Final Four, he doesn't have the best team, usually. And, only one team can win this thing. And I think we're finding it, happen right now with Kentucky and Duke. Did John Calipari underachieve? Did Mike Krzyzewski underachieve? And then, if you go to a Final Four, as many times as Tom's been there, and this is the 8th time, if he doesn't win a championship here, he'll be 1 for 8 in terms of national championships after getting to the Final Four. Obviously, that's not a great ratio, but again, I think getting there is a pretty remarkable accomplishment. And unless you get there and you've clearly got the best team but don't win it, like Kentucky in 2015, then I really think it's hard to criticize too heavily, because there's only 4 teams left playing. If you've got one of them, you've done a good job.
Yeah, and Izzo was one of the other teams at that Kentucky Final Four where they lost to Wisconsin, then Wisconsin lost to Duke. But that 4th team was, in fact, Michigan State in Indianapolis. All right, so who would be your X and O guy? I mean, if you had somebody, it's not recruiting, it's not that other stuff. We have a week to prepare. If this was essentially stock car racing and the 4 teams were relatively equal, do you want Bennett? Do you want Beard? Do you want Pearl? Or do you want Izzo to try to win 2 games?
That's a great question, and it's a reminder that we don't just have really good teams here. We got really good teams here led by high-level college basketball coaches. I mean, if you were to talk to people in that coaching profession and ask them who are some of the best X and O guys in the sport, some people would tell you Tom Izzo. Some people would tell you Chris Beard, and some people would tell you Tony Bennett. Those 3 for sure would be on the list. Izzo's obviously got the longest and most accomplished track record. Bennett, what he's been able to do at Virginia is unbelievable, and you know, it's one thing to win at Virginia. Not simple, but way easier than to do what Chris Beard is doing at Texas Tech. I guess I'd say I'd go with Tom Izzo just because of the track record over time, but I don't really think there's a wrong answer to that question.
I think that's fair, and I respect your Izzo answer. I can't argue with that. I would take Beard, but I would have no problem if somebody went with one of the other guys. How about if we had the first pick? Do we want Cassius Winston this weekend? Do we want Jared Culver this weekend? Do we want Bryce Brown this weekend? Who would be your first selection based upon how hot they are, how they're playing, and covering all these Final Fours? You know how this works. It's stadium shooting. It's sometimes a little different. How would, experience may play in? Who would be your first selection?
I think I would take Cassius Winston. He's the reigning Big Ten Player of the Year. He plays the most important position in college basketball. That's point guard. And if you're Tom Izzo, you feel great going into this thing anyway because you just beat the #1 overall seed. That suggests that you can beat anybody else in this event. But another reason you really feel good about things is you've got a veteran, awesome primary ball handler in Cassius Winston. If somebody else, to borrow a phrase from you, wanted to go with DeAndre Hunter or Jarrett Culver or Bryce Brown, they're all reasonable options. But if I had to just get one, we're drafting one guy to lead a Final Four team of the guys who are still playing in this event, I think I draft Cassius Winston.
All right, so you picked Izzo as the coach. You picked Cassius Winston as the player. Hell, you're basically wearing a green tie. Are you making Sparty the favorite in this thing, Gary?
I don't think they're the favorite, but I will pick them to win the national championship. All of the computers are going to say that Virginia should be the team that cuts nets next Monday night in Minneapolis. And obviously they've been great all year. They were in a position to be the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament until they lost in the ACC tournament semifinals. But once I just watched Michigan State do what it did to Duke and eliminate the most talented team in the country from this NCAA tournament, I'm just going to ride them to the end. They've checked every box. They've got high-end talent. They've got a Hall of Fame coach. They were Big Ten regular season champs. They're Big Ten tournament champs. They won a lot of games this year, beaten a lot of good competition. I think Michigan State will be the team that wins 2 more games and gives Tom Izzo his 2nd national title, making him just the 15th coach in Division I men's basketball history to have multiple championships.
You're the best. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time and the information. Enjoy Minneapolis. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Can't wait. I'll see you.
And straight ahead, Odell Beckham met the media, spoke for the first time as a member of the Cleveland Browns, had the hat on and everything. But is this a good thing if you're a Browns fan? Wait till you hear all this. Coming at you straight ahead is Writer's Block. Back in on Writer's Block, I'm Erik Kuselias in for Bill. Big opening weekend in Major League Baseball, and some guys are off to unbelievable starts. Maybe even picking up from where they left off last year. Let's take a look inside the numbers. First number, how about 6? And how about Christian Yelich? Had himself a day on Sunday, hitting a home run for the 4th straight game to start the season. Oh, by the way, he also had a walk-off double. Yelich becomes the 6th player in the history of MLB to homer in 4 straight games to start a season, joining names like Nelly Cruz, Mark McGwire, and Willie Mays. Next number, 44. Another guy that hit 4 home runs in that same series, Paul Goldschmidt. In his second game as a St. Louis Cardinal, Goldschmidt had himself a 3-home run game in a win against the Brew Crew. Had another one yesterday. This season, he has 4 home runs in 4 games. Last season, it took him 44 games to reach 4 home runs. Drop 1 to 43. Bryce Harper has Philly rocking 2 homers in his first series in Philadelphia. And Bryce loves the early months of the season. With his 2 home runs he's already hit, joining the league in 2012, Harper now breaks the tie with Ryan Braun and Nelson Cruz for most home runs in the months of March and April, with 43 in his career. 22, that means the reigning World Series champs didn't get off the start they would have hoped for. They dropped the series of the Mariners the opening weekend. It was a series to forget for the Red Sox starting pitching. Their starting pitchers combined to give up 22 earned runs to the M's. Chris Sale gave up 7 in the opening game of the season. Ugh. They gave up a total of 12 runs on opening day. That's the most runs given up on opening day by a reigning World Series champion. Sticking with the Sox, the Red Sox have Xander Bogaerts to be their shortstop of the future. The Red Sox gave him 7 years and $132 million. Now, since Bogaerts joined the league in 2014, he has the most RBIs of any shortstop during that period with that 382. Also has the most extra base hits by any shortstop with 263. He wears number 2 to honor his idol, and what Yankee fans would say is the greatest shortstop, what normal people would say is the most overrated shortstop in the history of Major League Baseball, one Derek Jeter. Yeah, I'm a Red Sox fan. You know, I had to give you a little jab there. Come on, I grew up. We didn't have anything. I got teased my whole life by Yankee fans. Let me have just one, please. All right, let's go over to the NFL. All right, with their new coach, Freddie Kitchens, they are now open for business in Cleveland. They get started today. So Odell Beckham Jr. donned the Cleveland Brown cap, met the media, and had this to say on behalf of his new team.
It never really crossed my mind, like, oh, going to Cleveland or worrying about marketing or worrying about any of that. I care about football. I care about winning. We talked about legendary. We talked about a legacy. We talked about gold jackets. That's our conversations. It never was about no money. It never was about any of that. It's about being a legend.
All right, do you think he's going to be the reason that Cleveland is going to close the deal? Maybe, but history says that ain't going to be the case. Consider this. Of the top 13 highest paid receivers in the NFL, they have combined to win as many Super Bowl rings as you, me, my grandmother, and your Aunt Mildred. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. Let's look at the Patriots, right? It's Deion Branch's Super Bowl MVP, Malcolm Mitchell making a great play, and Julian Edelman last year being the MVP of the game. Okay. Year before that, the Eagles. Alshon Jeffrey. He's, by the way, the highest paid wide receiver who has a ring. Alshon Jeffrey. Really nice player, but they didn't break the bank for him. And how about, I don't know, maybe the Giants, Odell's old team, they've won a couple of Super Bowls. Anyone remember David Tyree and Mario Manningham, who made the biggest plays for those 2 games that allowed the Giants to beat the Patriots twice? Not exactly break the bank kind of guys. See, really high-paid wide receivers are like the sports suspension and sport rims on a car. They look cool. Yeah, it's fun. Sexy. You can tell everybody, I got sport rims. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But guess what? That's not where the value of the car is. The value is the engine. You know what your engine is? Your engine is your offensive line, your defensive line. Under the hood, can't even see it. You get grimy touching it. That's how you win. That's how you get it done. Now, the body is obviously the quarterback. And Cleveland will go as far as Baker Mayfield takes them. And they'll go as far as their pass rush takes them. They're not going to go as far as their wide receivers take them. Again, cool, sexy, fun, little icing on the cake. But let's not forget how you win championships in this league. Just ask New England. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for being in. Thank you to Bill for allowing me to jump on in for him. Have a great, happy, healthy rest of your day. I'm Erik Kuselias in for Bill. This is Writer's Block.